Steelers Nation, stop everything you're doing right now, because what I'm about to tell you could completely change the trajectory of this franchise for the next decade. We're talking about a potential quarterback move that nobody saw coming, a defensive addition that could solidify our secondary immediately, and decisions that Omar has to make that will define whether Pittsburgh is playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. If you want to stay ahead of every single rumor, signing, and franchise-altering move before anyone else, smash that subscribe button right now because we're bringing you Steelers news every single day. All right, let's dive into this because there's so much happening behind the scenes that you need to understand. The Steelers are sitting in an incredibly unique position right now. They've got Aaron Rodgers under center, which gives them a legitimate shot to compete for a championship this season. But here's the thing that keeps every smart general manager up at night. Rodgers isn't a 10-year solution. He's a win-now piece. And while you're focused on winning today, you cannot afford to ignore tomorrow. That's where this entire story gets absolutely fascinating. Two names are swirling around Pittsburgh right now, Rasul Douglas and Brendan Sorsby. And before you ask, no, neither one has signed with the Steelers yet. Nothing is official. Nothing is confirmed. But the fact that these conversations are even happening tells you everything you need to know about how Omar is thinking. He's not just building a roster for this September. He's building a sustainable contender. And that requires making moves that some people won't understand until 2 years from now. Let's start with Brendan Sorsby because this story is absolutely wild. This kid applied for the NFL supplemental draft, which, if you're not familiar, is basically a secondary draft that happens in late July for players who weren't eligible for the regular draft but become available later. It's rare. It doesn't happen every year. And when it does, it usually involves players with complicated backgrounds. Sorsby fits that description perfectly. Here's what you need to know about his talent first, because that's what makes this whole thing so intriguing. According to top evaluators, this guy would have been the third quarterback taken in this year's draft if he had been eligible. We're talking about a player who would have gone right behind the top 2 signal callers. Some analysts even think he could have challenged for the number 2 spot. That's the caliber of arm talent and athletic ability we're discussing here. This isn't some random developmental prospect. This is a legitimate first-round talent who's now available through a completely different avenue. What makes Sorsby special? It's his ability to manipulate defenses with his eyes, change the trajectory and velocity of his throws based on coverage, and make plays both inside and outside the pocket. He's 6'3" with serious athleticism. Last season, he averaged over 9 air yards per attempt, which tells you he's not just a check-down artist. He's pushing the ball downfield and making defenses respect the entire field. He also rushed for 9 touchdowns, so he's not a statue back there. He can extend plays, create with his legs, and punish defenses that lose contain. The scouting reports are glowing when it comes to pure talent. Evaluators are saying his ceiling is higher than some of the quarterbacks taken in the first round this year. Now, that doesn't mean he's a better player right now. Some of those guys were drafted because their floor is incredibly high. They're pro-ready. They can step in and manage an offense immediately. Sorsby is different. He's a developmental guy with elite traits. If you get him into the right system with the right coaching, you could be looking at a franchise quarterback. That's the upside. But here's where it gets complicated. And this is why he's in the supplemental draft instead of being a top pick in April. Sorsby had a gambling situation in college. Now, let's be clear about what actually happened because context matters. The NCAA investigated and found no integrity of the game violations. He wasn't fixing games. He wasn't throwing interceptions on purpose. He was betting on his own team while he was back in his dorm and his team was on the road. Stupid? Absolutely. A career ender? That's the question every NFL team is asking right now. The league hasn't announced whether they'll even hold a supplemental draft yet. Roger Goodell has to officially approve it, and if he does, teams will get a memo explaining the rules, the timeline, and how the bidding process works. Here's how it works if you've never followed a supplemental draft before. Teams submit blind bids using future draft picks. If you want to use a first-round pick to select Sorsby, you're giving up your first-round pick in next year's draft. Same thing for the second round, third round, and so on. Most people believe no team is going to sacrifice a first-rounder for a player with off-field concerns and a likely suspension. But starting in the second round? That's where things get interesting. Imagine you're a team picking late in the second round next year. Maybe you're a contender like Detroit, Philadelphia, or Seattle. You're projecting to pick near the bottom of round 2 in 2027. That's pick 60-something. Now, you have the chance to land a quarterback who would have gone in the top 50 if he was in the regular draft. That's a value play. That's how front offices start convincing themselves to take a risk. And that's exactly what Mike Tannenbaum, the former NFL general manager, has been talking about. He keeps mentioning non-obvious teams. What does that mean? It means don't just assume the teams with terrible quarterbacks are the only ones interested. Smart organizations are always looking ahead. A team like the Lions could draft Sorsby and let him develop behind Jared Goff for 2 years. The Eagles could take him and build the next generation behind Jalen Hurts. The Seahawks could grab him and create competition. These are teams that don't have an immediate need but understand that quarterback is the most important position, and you never stop looking. Now, let's bring this back to Pittsburgh because this is where Steelers fans need to pay attention. Would Omar seriously consider using a second or third round pick on Brendan Sorsby? On the surface, it seems unlikely. The Steelers already have Drew Aller, who they drafted to be the future. They've also got Will Howard in the building as a developmental piece. Adding another young quarterback seems redundant, right? But here's the counter-argument. If you believe Sorsby is more talented than Aller, and some evaluators do, then you take the best player. You let them compete. You figure it out later. There's also the suspension factor. Sorsby is almost certainly going to face discipline from the NFL because of the gambling. It could be a few games. It could be the entire first season. Nobody knows yet. But if it's a full-year suspension, that actually makes this easier for a team. You're not drafting him to save your season in September. You're drafting him to develop in the building, learn the system, and be ready when his time comes. That's a redshirt year. And if you believe in quarterback development, that's actually ideal. Here's what some of the analysts are saying. Jordan Palmer, who works with quarterbacks and has been around elite coaching his entire life, said Sorsby would have been the third quarterback off the board this year. He compared him favorably to guys like Ty Simpson and other highly touted prospects. Palmer talked about how playing quarterback isn't just about arm strength. It's about seeing the defense, matching your throw to what the coverage is giving you, and manipulating windows with trajectory changes. That's what Sorsby does at an elite level. Other evaluators have said that teams who drafted quarterbacks like Cade Klubnik, Carson Beck, and even Drew Aller should be looking hard at Sorsby because his talent is on par or better. That's a bold statement, but it's coming from people who study this for a living. If you're the Jets and you took Klubnik in the second round, wouldn't you at least ask the question? If you're Arizona and you drafted Carson Beck, don't you want to compare the tape? If you're Pittsburgh and you've invested in Aller, shouldn't you make sure you've got the best young quarterback in the building? That's the conversation happening in front offices right now. It's not about desperation. It's about value and opportunity. This is an unexpected chance to land a first-round talent in the second or third round. Those opportunities don't come around often, and when they do, the teams that capitalize are usually the ones that stay ahead. Now let's flip to the other side of the story. Rasul Douglas. Completely different player, completely different need, completely different timeline. Douglas is a veteran cornerback who's played for multiple teams, including the Packers, Eagles, and Cardinals. He's not a superstar. He's not going to the Pro Bowl. But he's exactly the kind of player that championship defenses need. He's a guy who can step into the secondary and immediately bring experience, communication, and toughness. Why does that matter for Pittsburgh? Because the Steelers are built to win right now. They've got TJ Watt. They've got Alex Highsmith. They've got Nick Herbig coming off the edge. Their pass rush is elite. But what good is pressure if the secondary can't capitalize? That's the missing piece. You need defensive backs who can cover long enough for the rush to get home. You need guys who can finish plays when the quarterback panics and throws up a bad ball. You need veterans who can communicate assignments and prevent the busted coverages that lose playoff games. That's Rasul Douglas. He's not coming in to be the #1 corner. He's not replacing Joey Porter Jr. He's coming in to compete for snaps, stabilize the room, mentor younger players, and give Patrick Graham another reliable option when the game gets tight. And in the AFC, where you're facing Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Joe Burrow, you need all the depth you can get in the secondary. Steelers fans know how quickly a season can fall apart because of one coverage bust, 1 3rd and long where the communication breaks down, one moment where the pass rush wins, the quarterback scrambles, and nobody finishes the play. That's the difference between advancing in the playoffs and going home. Douglas helps prevent those moments. So here's what makes this entire situation so fascinating. The Steelers are facing 2 completely different questions at the same time. How do you win right now, and how do you build for the future? Rasul Douglas is about the present. Brendan Sorsby is about tomorrow. One helps you win this season. The other could define the next era. And smart front offices don't choose between those 2 things. They do both. That's what separates Omar from general managers who are always playing catch-up. He's not waiting until the secondary collapses to add depth. He's not waiting until the quarterback room is empty to start looking for the next franchise player. He's being proactive. He's exploring every option. And even if neither Douglas nor Sorsby ends up in Pittsburgh, the fact that these conversations are happening tells you the Steelers are thinking the right way. Because let's be real, the AFC is brutal. Baltimore isn't waiting around. They're adding talent. Cincinnati is reloading. Kansas City and Buffalo are staying aggressive. If Pittsburgh hesitates, they get left behind. And in a conference this stacked, you can't afford to be reactive. You have to be the team making moves that force everyone else to respond. So where does this leave us? Rasul Douglas could sign any day. Or he could sign somewhere else. Brendan Sorsby could be selected by the Steelers in the supplemental draft. Or Omar could decide the risk isn't worth it. Nothing is guaranteed. But both possibilities matter because they represent the kind of decision-making that defines successful franchises. If Douglas makes the secondary more reliable and helps Pittsburgh survive a brutal schedule, that's a win. If Sorsby turns into a franchise quarterback 2 years from now and the Steelers only gave up a second-round pick, that's a home run. But even if neither move happens, the fact that Pittsburgh is doing their homework means they're not sleepwalking through the offseason. Steelers Nation, this is what the next few weeks are going to look like. Rumors, speculation, names popping up that you didn't expect. Some will turn into real moves. Some won't. But if you want to be ahead of every single story, you need to stay locked in right here. We're tracking every development, every rumor, and every decision Omar makes. So let me know in the comments. Would you rather see the Steelers add Rasul Douglas and strengthen the defense right now? Or would you take the gamble on Brendan Sorsby as a high-upside quarterback swing for the future? Because one move helps you win in 2026. The other could change what this franchise looks like for the next decade. And if Omar plays this right, the Steelers might just protect both the present and the future at the same time. Stay locked in, Steelers Nation. This is just getting started.